live?
And we're live. Yes. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Kangas. Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody that's joining. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to chat tonight. I'm so excited to have two of you tonight. This is going to be so much fun.
Thank you for having us, Cory.
Yeah, awesome. So while people are joining, I thought we would just do a few super quick intros. So for everybody that's just joining, hi, I'm Cory from Doggly. My mom and I started Doggly a couple years ago to bring the best products and people together all in one place. And I'm so excited to talk tonight with Dr. Katie Kangas. So if you've joined our lives before, we've had Dr. Kangas on a couple times. She's an amazing holistic veterinarian out of San Diego. She's also a holistic advocate on Doggly. I think I put a link to your community in the description above us, so check that out. And then tonight, I'm so excited. So Steve is one of the co-founders from Canine Matrix, and Dr. Kangas is actually the one who introduced us to Canine Matrix and Steve and all of the amazing things that they are doing. And so I'm excited to learn more about mushrooms tonight because I have a bunch of questions. And I know that you guys are the ones to help us figure all of this out. So thank you for you guys to take the time and go through all of this. I'm really excited to dive in.
Thank you, Cory. And it's, of course, always my pleasure to join you. And I'm really thrilled to be an advocate for the Doggly community. And anybody who knows me knows that as an integrative veterinarian, I am really passionate about nutrition and food medicine and equipping our pet bodies with as many tools nutritionally to support health. And mushrooms fit that bill so beautifully. They're really a superfood, which Steve Farrar is a mushroom expert, mushroom mycologist. And so he'll walk us through a little bit about the technical info behind mushrooms. But I can tell you from a clinical standpoint, I carry mushrooms in my practice. Interestingly, I carry the canine line, which is Canine Matrix. And lucky for me that this company, Steve's company, is actually local to me in Carlsbad, but these mushrooms are available, of course, across the country. And we carry the dog version, the Canine Matrix. And we also, and here's my dog's, I've actually put it in a can, but we also carry the human product at my practice as well, because a lot of people like to pick up stuff for themselves as they're learning what they can do for their dogs for better health. Then they can add things for themselves for their health as well. So we do talk about mushrooms a lot. And when I see my patients, I explain to people all the benefits that it brings as a nutritional, food medicine. And so we're thrilled to share more of that tonight.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah, I say that all the time that I'm healthier because of my dog. Because of all the things that I've learned for him, now I do I'm trying to do for myself. He's definitely healthier.
It's truly one of the most rewarding compliments I hear every day, or comments that I hear every day, is people thanking me for not only helping them to get better awareness for keeping their dog healthy or their pet healthy, but also impacting themselves and their human family members. So it's wonderful that so much of this applies to all creatures, not just dogs. So.
Yeah. I love that. Amazing. So Steve, since we are talking about your products, can you tell us, so your background is beyond interesting. So can you share a little bit about yourself and Canine Matrix and everything that you're doing?
Sure. Always happy to talk mushrooms. So I've been growing them for almost 40 years now. Now the first probably 25 years it was growing fresh mushrooms as produce items for restaurants and in the produce market. I didn't grow the common button mushroom. I always was attracted more to the wood decaying species like maitake, shiitake, enoki, oyster mushrooms. And I was a little bit ahead of the time. Back in the 80s, it was still these other mushrooms. People weren't quite sure what to think of them. Are they poisonous? Are they going to be high? Are they good to eat? What are they? They don't look like the button mushroom. But over time, the awareness has increased, and now people are embracing many other species. They're from I think the gourmet cooking shows and the gourmet cooking magazines. They're realizing that there's many mushrooms out there, and that they provide some nutrition and taste that's not available in just a common button mushroom. And then about 2006, I started getting more interested in the medicinal ones, mushrooms that have good nutritional and medicinal qualities, but you'd never want to cook them for dinner for one reason or another. That they tend to be, some of the medicinal species like reishi, they're very bitter and fibrous, and they're just not good culinary mushrooms to provide medicinal benefits. So we developed a process over the years that involves, it's called a solid state fermentation process, where they grow the mushrooms on a edible substrate. We grow them on organic oats, and the idea is we want to capture the whole life cycle of the mushroom. Most people, when they think of the mushroom, they only think of what we call the fruit body stage, the stage that you see that comes out of the ground that makes the spores that are disseminated in the environment by wind or insects. That's only really the tip of the iceberg of the mushroom. We focused really more on the mycelial stage. And the mycelium is a network, the roots of the mushroom, so to speak, that goes into the environment, and it's a thin, wispy, thread-like, interconnected mass of tissue that finds a substrate, digests it, and when conditions are right, it switches gears and forms a fruit body to keep the cycle going. So in 2009, I met the co-founder of this company, Dr. Sandra Carter, at a integrative medicine conference in San Diego. She's has a PhD in public health and exercise physiology, and I was able to get her interested in mushrooms, because mushrooms offered many solutions to medical problems that really Western medicine didn't have a very good solution for. She became very intrigued with them, to the point where initially she was kind of a consultant, helping me with come up with some white papers on the medicinal properties of mushrooms. That I was good from the mycology that growing mushrooms, but I really tried to sell them on their medical properties. It was a bit of a stretch for me. So eventually she got drawn in, as mushrooms tend to do. Once you get into it, it's such a fascinating subject. They grab a hold and they don't let go.
Yeah.
Actually, we formed a company together, and initially we kind of our proof of concept that this system of growing them in solid state fermentation and presenting them as a complete food with the whole life cycle. We originally selling them just to the horse equine industry, where people with the $1 million thoroughbred race horses, dressage horses. In this area in San Diego, there's a lot of rich people with horses, and they wanted, particularly the horses with a job, competitive horses. They wanted whatever advantage they can, and so we ended up getting some very good data and very good results, and then moved into a canine line and human line, and so now we not only have those lines, but we also many mushroom products you see out in the marketplace now, whether it's in an energy bar or in a kombucha drink or in a protein mix. We're probably supplying the mushroom ingredients that go into the other products.
Wow.
We grow them all here in San Marcos. We grow them in an indoor facility with filtered air, filtered water. We have very good controlled conditions. We do the whole thing in-house. We grow them, we process them, we package them. We even make the seed that we plant the mushroom crop with, which involves a tissue culturing technique and maintenance of the tissue cultures and expansion properties. So it's quite an operation, and it's a challenge. It takes a lot of engineering to make it work, the equipment to make it work, biological knowledge, food safety knowledge. Now, in terms, everybody's concerned about food safety. So now the regulatory arena and all the Food Safety Modernization Act and all that. And we are a member of the National Animal Supplement Council, and we're just next month we're going to go ahead and do the audit so we can put that seal on our products.
That's great.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And Steve, I love how your company is really bringing ancient wisdom into, modern marketing and really teaching people and reaching out to, the masses of how valuable medical how medicinal mushrooms are. And I love to educate people that these types of mushrooms, reishi, shiitake, maitake, cordyceps, these types of mushrooms have been used in Chinese medicine herbal formulas for centuries. and of course I'm Chinese medicine trained. I do acupuncture on animals. And so I do have quite a bit of herbal background and Chinese herbal background. And these types of mushrooms have been used medicinally for a long, long time in other cultures. And now in our American and Westernized culture, people are starting to realize the powerful value that these have. And even as I love Steve said, even beyond what Western medicine capabilities have, and much more safely. So I'm so thrilled that your company is one of the leading authorities in this field that is bringing not only great science, but great products out to light to people. So thank you so much for that.
Yes, and Western medicine is really backed up what the Chinese ancient herbalists knew about it. They describe the medicinal activities, and obviously in different manners, rather than meridians and hot and cold and wet and all that. It's modes of actions and chemicals. And there's been a lot of research done. Although what we see is that the Western medicine takes the Western approach, and when they look at mushrooms, they tend to, when they do a research on them, they extract and concentrate an isolated active ingredient and look at the action of that ingredient in isolation as opposed into a whole food product, which particularly with many of the health benefits, we find that it's not just one active ingredient that contributes to the health outcome. So
exactly.
It's a one-sided approach.
As always with herbal medicine, it's the synergy of the plant that makes the difference. And Western medicine, pharmacology, typically they are, as Steve said, isolating what's considered to be the active ingredient and potentiating that, but then you lose the synergistic benefits and you get more side effects. So herbal medicine and nutrient medicine, such as mushrooms, is powerful, effective, and safe. And what a wonderful thing to be sharing with everybody.
Yeah. Awesome. And it's really just recently, over the last really 5 to 10 years, it's really been, the awareness has increased rapidly. Before, I said I produce mushroom powders. I'd get the wink and the poke in the ribs. They thought obviously I was a magic mushroom grower, and although even that's starting to become mainstream, the idea of using the so-called magic mushrooms clinically for a variety of conditions, and particularly in the veterinary world, it was a really coup to get veterinarians to look at mushrooms, because traditionally veterinarian looks at a mushroom and all their experience has been treating a dog that's eaten a poisonous mushroom in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
That mushroom could actually provide health benefits to the dog and also to people. Most people think, well, a mushroom, you slice it, you put it on a pizza or a steak, and that's about the extent of mushrooms. And so it's been really a paradigm shift. It's a lot of people are seeking them out, and awareness has increased a lot.
Yeah, and sort of tied with that, so I see that we have a question on quality. We have one, Dr. Kangas is amazing. And then we have also a question on quality. How do we know about quality products? So many are now grown in labs. So how can people, is there a way, sort of with this, like, I guess sort of with anything, right? When a lot of people start developing products and marketing goes crazy and all things are claimed that maybe shouldn't be claimed. Is there a way for people to look at a mushroom supplement and tell if it's like where on the quality scale it falls?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of different mushroom products in the marketplace now. One thing that you need to look at is where the mushrooms were grown. Mushrooms have a very strong ability to bioaccumulate both good things and bad things. The good things being things like selenium and minerals. The bad things, if they're grown in a polluted air, polluted water, contaminated substrate, they also bioaccumulate toxins such as heavy metals, pesticide residues, even radioactivity. So immediately, a lot of the mushroom products are kind of coming out of China, even though those people that are importing those Chinese products will say, well, it's grown in a pristine area of China. I really doubt that. There's not much left of China that's not really significantly polluted. So buying your product of USDA, I would always advise getting certified organic is a good idea. Now, there's some diversity of opinions. Some people think that only the fruit body stage is where the activity is, the part that comes that we're used to seeing as a mushroom, and that mycelial products don't have any activity. That is disinformation. There is a lot of activity going on in the mycelium of mushrooms. Really, I think that's where most of the activity is at. If you think about it, the mushrooms come out of the ground, they form the fruit body, and they release spores, and then they're gone in a day or two. Mycelium has to endure for much more longer periods of time, and it has to survive in a very competitive environment with parasites, predators, pathogens. So it's got a very robust immune system, a very robust enzymatic digestive system as well. So I like to use a whole mushroom product that includes both stages of the mushroom life cycle. There's some people that think that you need to extract and concentrate, isolate the ingredients. Generally, they focus on these compounds that are called beta-glucans that help with immune function. They actually attach to receptor sites in immune cells and potentiate them. But the beta-glucans are only one of about 30 things in mushrooms that also support immune function. Other things like vitamin D2, ergosterol, chitin, prebiotic dietary fibers, they all have a synergistic effect on immune function. Some people advocate, well, it needs to be grown outside in its natural environment, its natural substrate. Well, the problem with that is growing outside, it's subject to a lot of variability from crop to crop, and particularly if they're wild harvested, depending on what year it is, what time of year it was harvested, what the season was like. And being outside, mushrooms attract a lot of insects. So wild mushrooms, generally, if you're buying a wild mushroom preparation, even just a wild fresh mushroom to cook, you're generally also eating some insect larvae and some insect feces. And you don't know if it was grown in a polluted area or what the toxin levels are. And you're trusting the picker that he didn't screw up and put in a toxic mushroom in with the mushrooms he was supposed to be picking. The advantage of growing them indoors is that we can filter the air, we can filter the water, we can select an organic substrate with good nutritional profile, and we can dial in the environment so we get very consistent batches from one time to the next. We test every batch for heavy metal content. We test every batch for microbiological contamination. We comply with good manufacturing practices. We're audited by companies. I just finished an audit today from a company. They come in with the new Food Safety Modernization Act. They're very concerned liability-wise of what they buy and put in their products. So we are very closely watched by the industry and audited all the time. And we really, in terms of the mushroom industry, we've got the highest scores from audits of people that are sourcing mushrooms from this sort of this type.
Yep. I've actually toured through the facility that Steve is at, where they grow the mushrooms, and it is incredible. It's impeccable. There's a lot of science going on. I mean, they wear the clean suits. I mean, everything. It's very, very impressive. So it's a wonderful production facility.
That's great, and I'm sure that's why, or in part, why their products are the ones that you recommend to your clients.
Yeah. And Steve is such a great educator. He came to my practice probably 4 years ago now and did a presentation for my whole staff so everyone could learn a lot about mushrooms. It really helped us elevate our level of knowledge and awareness so that we could educate our clients and serve our patients better. And honestly, several years ago, one of the things that I knew about mushrooms is that they were so good for immune system. So in the beginning, when I started using mushrooms more in my practice, I was thinking of it for autoimmune, immune-mediated, allergies, cancer, because the anti-cancer properties, but I wasn't necessarily recommending it for everybody. And now, I mean, I prioritize, when I recommend things because I don't want to overwhelm people. But at some point, I would like to get mushrooms in for everybody, because the numerous, variety of things that mushrooms provide medicinally and health building for the body are wide scoped, and truly they're beneficial for everybody. And one of the things that Steve mentioned briefly that I like to share with people is that mushrooms are a nice source of vitamin D as well. And it turns out that not only are the majority of American humans vitamin D deficient, but the majority of dogs are too. And it's 75-80% of dogs, no matter what they eat, even my patients on raw food, have vitamin D deficiency problems. And so mushrooms are another vitamin D rich food that's another capacity that they bring. So many reasons for us to be on them, but definitely the immune supportive, the adaptogen. We were talking before we went on live with Steve about how reishi is such a good adaptogen. That is a term that's used for a lot of herbs and plant medicine, meaning that it helps the body adapt to stressors, be it physiological, emotional, mental. The adrenal glands are very involved in helping the body to adapt as other hormonal systems and biochemical systems. Mushrooms and reishi notably really help the body adapt through all of that to help keep the body on a more even keel, healthier, more balanced, mood support, all that kind of stuff, calmer. And that really helps in every illness situation or just staying healthy. Wow. So many properties that are so beneficial.
Can we sort of in line with that, can we dive into like specific use cases? Because I know, I mean, there's so much to know about mushrooms in general, and then there's, everybody kind of like, for example, and I have it right here. Let's see if I can actually show it correctly. There we go. So I have been using the Zen calming support with my dog Bosley for a little over a month now. And we were talking before that he's just a little bit tighter. Wow. He just needed to like
anxious
even out a little bit. Yeah. He's got some anxiety in certain situations. He just needed to kind of balance. And it's been really cool seeing that happen with him, that he's just kind of and it's not like a big, huge difference, but you can just kind of tell that he's like mellow, or not mellow, he's like balancing. And I know that there's joint support and there's turkey tail and there's, as you were kind of saying, like mushrooms just in general for general health are amazing. And I know in your holistic community, you talked about joint support a lot. Can we dive into like what is actually like from, I guess, one side of it, from supplement to supplement? So like between the Zen calming support and the joint supplement, like what's going on? Like what are the differences in the supplements? And then like how does that, when you're Dr. Kangas, when you're meeting with patients, how do you sort of apply the different supplements to the different people that you're seeing?
Awesome. Well, I can start just real briefly by saying a few things, and then I would love Steve to expand on that and educate all of us about more detail. But most people I should say a lot of my clients have heard or read about turkey tail. There's been extensive studies with anti-cancer properties with turkey tail. So a lot of people are actually looking for that for their dog or their pet when cancer has been diagnosed. But from my understanding, all of these medicinal mushrooms do have anti-cancer properties, but turkey tail is one that has, very known benefits in that category. I do know also that cordyceps mushroom, it helps to oxygenate the body better. So in the human line, it's one of the main, it's the first mushroom listed in the formula for the FIT formula. It's in the recovery and the restore for people, but the recovery formula for dogs. So any dogs that have a cardiovascular or a respiratory or, just really compromised, I like to make sure that cordyceps is in there as well. Reishi, I know, is called the mushroom of longevity. I know it's very helpful for kidney support. It's an adaptogen. So those are ones that I specifically know to help direct specific patients to, depending on their condition. But maybe Steve can expand a little bit from his knowledge on what he would like to share in that regard as well. Sure.
Well, all the medicinal mushrooms and all mushrooms in general do contain these beta-glucan compounds that provide the immunomodulating properties. However, even though they all have beta-glucans, they all have variations of a theme. Different mushrooms will have different beta-glucans with different molecular weights, different side chain attachments, different solubilities, and that affects their functionality. So many of our products, we combine several mushrooms together to elicit a more broad-based immune response, even though any individual one is going to support and modulate immune function, both from a hypo and a hyper condition. It's going to bring it back into balance. And like Dr. Kangas has said, the turkey tail gets a lot of attention. It's probably the most highly researched mushroom out there. Definitely immune function. Also, it's very good liver tonic, supports liver function. Very good at detoxification. In fact, they use turkey tail mycelium to detoxify industrial waste streams, like from beautiful mushroom as well. A lot of people, when we were selling turkey tail, I said, they thought, I thought, is it vegetarian? How can it be vegetarian if it's turkey tail? Well, it looks a little bit like a turkey tail. It's not any. That's not everything. No turkeys were harmed. They didn't take their turkey tails off.
That's like turkey tail.
Yeah, they're a beautiful mushroom. We put reishi in a lot of products because of its effect against stressors, also cardiovascular effects. It definitely it tends to downregulate the histamine response. So animals with coat conditions and hives and whatnot, it tends to mellow out those reactions. And part of it just being calmer. If the dog is not nervous, he tends to have less problems as well. And like Doctor mentioned, cordyceps goes into a lot of products. It upregulates ATP cycle, so there's more energy for the muscles as well as oxidization of the tissues. It tends to have some inflammation modulation effects. So for in the human world, for sports world, it's used a lot by athletes, both as a pre and a post workout. And if you got a dog you're training or working a lot, it can help them recover from exercise quicker. The joint, it's a mixture of several mushrooms. Part of the action of on the joints is a inflammation modulation. Also, many of the joint problems relate to autoimmune disorders. So by balancing immune function, it helps in that manner. I think also the cell wall of the mushroom contains a compound called chitin. When that breaks down into the monomer, that's glucosamine. Now, we haven't precisely determined how much of the chitin breaks down in the animal into the glucosamine, but what does is in a very pristine condition, not kind of what I call the tweaked glucosamine from the fairly nasty industrial process of extracting it from shellfish waste. So there's a lot of properties of the mushrooms. Sometimes we have to dial back our sayings because it sounds like we're selling snake oil because there's so many properties that they address, but really the mushrooms are wonderful. And there's so much going on compared to the typical medicinal plant. Like in the reishi mushroom, so far they've identified over 200 active triterpene and beta-glucan compounds just in the one mushroom, and they seem to be finding a couple more every day. So there's a lot of complexity that goes on in mushrooms that we don't necessarily see in the plant world.
Yeah, there's definitely. I'm sorry, I was going to say there's a lot to know.
Yeah, the complexity. I was thinking that too as you were talking, that we all, we think of mushrooms with such good immune support properties, and one of the things that they provide too is prebiotic fibers. Yes. And most people understand now that your probiotics, your beneficial bacteria, is enormously responsible for your immune system. And a lot of people and dogs don't get enough fibers to feed beneficial bacteria. And so not only are a lot of people's microbiomes out of balance because of all the antibiotic prescriptions and all the antibiotics in the food animal industry and in, all of the sources that we have in our world with antimicrobial things, but a lot of people aren't eating the fuel that bacteria need. And so another great property of superfood mushrooms. Yeah. So very complex and in a good way.
Indeed, yes. And definitely a mushroom prebiotic dietary fibers bring something new to the party that the plant-based dietary fibers don't. They're particularly effective encouraging the beneficial probiotics as opposed to possibly the dysbiotic microbiome species.
Yeah.
So that's a significant thing, not only physically, but also finding, also it affects your brain function. There's the vagus nerve between the stomach and the brain. If that's not working right and your microbiome is all screwed up, not only is your gut's going to be affected, but your head is going to be too.
Yep. All kinds of reasons to drink your lion mane every day because it helps with your gut and then you're
Sure.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. So I know we're like basically out of time, but we have 2 questions in the comments that I just want to quickly address if you guys are okay for like 4 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is, can mushrooms be used for gut issues, allergy, or joint support? And it sounds like all of the above. Just depends on sort of which formulation.
Yeah, they can address all those things, and you might take a different mushroom or a different blend to target it at each one of those functionalities, but in general, all of them, they can all provide some degree of support. We do.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and from a practitioner standpoint, there may be other things that I would add in to help support a gut to better function and better balance, but certainly there wouldn't be anything wrong with adding mushrooms in there. There's a lot of impact that can make, but that might not be the only thing that I would recommend to do as well. But in part of a comprehensive plan, absolutely.
Right. I guess every dog is different, so it would depend on what else is going on. Okay, we just got one other question. Do you recommend MRM or joint for an older dog with stiffer joints, or both? So for a senior dog, is it one or the other?
For senior, I think I'd recommend the MRM, the Maximum Recovery Matrix. It's the blend of reishi, cordyceps, king trumpet, and antrodia. Now, antrodia is a mushroom most people have not heard of, but it's a really good for liver function. A lot of times liver is really some of the root causes of a lot of older dogs. It's a very strong liver tonic. The reishi helps up the oxygenation and the energy levels for the senior dog. The king trumpet, very high levels of antioxidants, and it's very good for bone function, for bone strength, and also in the human world, people with osteoporosis and bone issues. So those 4 mushrooms seem to really, it's a sweet blend. We use it also the same blend in the human world, and it's really good for people recovering from surgeries or health challenges. So it's one of our go-to blends for a lot of issues.
That's great. Okay, the last question, which I actually had this question as well, is I'm afraid I'm overwhelming my dog with supplementation. Would you consider this short-term or a possible replacement over digestive enzymes, hormone balance, and like Dr. Kangas mentioned, vitamin D supplements that are long-term? So I guess it's more of a, I sort of had a similar question of, there's a lot of supplements.
I can speak to that well. I like to guide people through this. I definitely recommend a number of supplements. But that said, sometimes people are excess. Sometimes people bring me the bag of supplements that they've got their pet on, and they literally dump 25 things out. Now that's a lot, but to me, 8 things is not a lot, but it depends. But I'm not gonna recommend that somebody start 6 or 8 things for their dog in 1 week, or certainly in 1 day. These are things that we're going to stage in one at a time to get to a comprehensive, complete plan. But depending on, how much your dog is on, yes, you could get excess, but layering in several things is generally not a problem. You just want to have some guidance or some awareness of, are things you're using redundant, or are they different enough where they're complementing each other rather than overdoing things? And I would say, mushrooms, I would consider indefinite. I take them every single day. I give them to my dog every day. So I wouldn't see a reason for them to be just temporary. But, that said, you can certainly rotate in and out of different supplements just because there's so many things that are worthy. So I don't know if Steve has, a comment that's different than that, but.
No, that's a good answer. And in traditional Chinese medicine, these mushrooms the medicinal medicine are generally regarded as tonics. You take them on an ongoing daily basis, not just when you're feeling under the weather or you have a challenge of some sort. Is that kind of how they're best realized? You always got some in your system working the magic, and that tends to be how I take them every day, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, I need now after my head is spinning with all this information, but the main point that I'm taking out of it is that we should all, as people, as pets, should all be taking mushrooms every day. Is basically what, from an overall health perspective, it sounds like there's no, it's only a benefit in so many ways to have some type of mushroom supplement.
And not just as a supplement, as a powder, but also for dinner, because we're way behind the rest of the world. Average American eats only about 4 pounds of mushrooms a year per capita. In Asia, it's 20 to 30 pounds. It's like we pretty much neglect the whole kingdom of life as a food source. On the USDA food plate, you don't see mushrooms anywhere. It's bread and meat, right? It's a whole kingdom of life. Why are mushrooms there? It doesn't have to be a huge slice, but it should be there on that plate.
Yeah, that's a good. We should be eating them. They should just be in our everyday routine.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for staying a little bit over time. I really appreciate you guys answering all of my questions and everybody's questions. This is a very what's that?
Medicinal mushroom. I thought it was a nice little closing image of medicinal mushrooms.
Yes, I love that. There's so much to know, and I know that it can be sometimes overwhelming for people. So it's so helpful that you guys came on and helped us kind of like break this down and make it easier to understand. And so I am definitely going to go order mushrooms for myself. And for everybody. So this is what, as I said, I use the Zen supplement for my dog Bosley. For everybody that's still watching. So we actually just because we had this live tonight, we decided to do run a discount on everything Canine Matrix. Actually, we have the human supplements as well on Dogly. So everything is 10% off until Sunday. So go stock up on all of the amazing Canine Matrix and Ohm supplements for yourself and for your dog. And I can't thank you both enough for taking the time to come and chat tonight. I'm sure we're going to have you both back to dive in a little bit more into all of this because there's a lot to know. But I really, really appreciate it.
It's a great start. Thank you for having me on tonight. What a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching and for all of your questions. If there's any other questions, you can always drop them in the comments. And we'll try to get back to you soon. So thank you everybody. Have a great rest of your night. Bye.
Bye.